Hi, bros. Call me Matthew. I want to tell you about my problem. It's still going on, and I don't know if it's gonna end or not, but I can't live with it anymore. It's killing me. I met Ellie when we were 16. It was by accident, in the library. In fact, we don't go there really often, only to read something needed for our studies. So we decided it was our destiny to meet each other, and we started chatting and dating. Ellie was really the sunniest cutie. That didn't make me any problems. She wasn't jealous about my GFs, didn't make me tell her where I was, why I was not with her at the moment. Anyway, she didn't ask me anything about gifts, too. She was happy to get a usual bunch of flowers from the flowerbed. So, that kind of relationship were a dream of any guy. But I started to understand it was not for me sometime later. She was cool, but I wanted something more. More fire, maybe? I understood that. I started looking at hot girls that preferred high heels even on the off-road and that often wore miniskirts. My friend had exactly that kind of girl. She liked jealousy dramas, paid him some special attention, and always took the initiative. I liked it. I wanted that kind of feeling, as they had, because everything was sparkling around him. And Ellie was just a cozy, warm, and close girl. She was more like a sister than like a girlfriend to me. I wanted just to keep her safe and nothing more. At my teenage, I could be sexually excited even when I accidentally saw a girl's ankle, but I didn't have such a reaction to Ellie, at all. Step by step, I got further from her. I didn't want to make her suffer, but I just couldn't continue this one. My friends suggested me to try some flirting with one of the queens that prefer one-time dates, but I couldn't cheat on Ellie at the same time. So I decided I will finish school and then finish my relations with her. It could be some soft breakup, kinda, it's not because of you, it's because of me, bae. Life is such a strange thing, baby. And I could move to another town to enter a college. It seemed to me that she understood the thing about the breakup herself because she became nervous and, judging by her red eyes, she often cried. But I had nothing to give her. I couldn't put the love for her in my head because if I could, I would press all this love chemistry and hormones in my head as much as I could. I really tried. I didn't want to hurt her. In the end of it all, after the prom, she said she was going with me to enter my college. She even got an answer from it earlier than me, but I was preparing for it since my primary school, and I knew exactly she planned to study the art. It was the first time when I understood the meaning of the metaphor, get someone on the lockdown. Unfortunately, it wasn't the last gift from our relationships. At the first year at college, when I was running away from her, she found out she had cancer. Nobody knew how it could happen, that a young, absolutely healthy girl got this, but I definitely couldn't break up with my ill girl now. I would kill her, really. That's why I forgot about my wishes and promised her to be with her as long as she needed. I didn't think it could be so long because it was cancer on the 3rd stage, so it was a train to nowhere. We started the treatment. I mean, she started and I was with her, as I promised. Endless chemotherapy, mental breakdowns, fallen out hair. My sunny cutie turned into her own shadow, and holding hands, the only thing she asked me about was not to leave her. I was not going to because I gave her a promise. I don't know, maybe the treatment was good. Maybe everything was not so bad as her parents and doctors said. They also said that my love helped her. Ellie got a remission. The cancer disappeared. But the thing was not in love. I was really happy for her, as everybody was. After that, of course, there was a long recovery. I spent it with her and all that time. You can think it was because I felt sorry for her if you want to, but the reason did not matter. Ellie started shining with her smile again, living her ordinary life. I I was sitting and thinking how we can break up. The problem was that I fell in love, and that girl agreed to date me. She even knew about Ellie, but I couldn't do that. I couldn't break up. Oh yeah, I'm a dweeb. At the end of it all, the girl I fell in love with came up to me and said she liked me, but she couldn't wait forever. So I had a choice. Either I make a decision, or she would definitely find somebody else with no problems. And I made that decision. I came to Ellie, call her out, and just when I was about to open my mouth, she showed me a lot of documents with analysis. The cancer returned. That remission was not so long, you know. It was only half a year, and cancer came back. I really hated all the hospital smell. Of course I didn't break up again. Could you leave a good person at these hard times? I couldn't. I had a lot of nightmares where I was breaking up with her, and she died after my words. That dream really came all the time, and in the reality I held her hand and asked her to be strong and fight. Nobody said and nobody believed that she would revive. Of course, the other girl ceased any communications with me and found another guy who didn't care much about his ex-present girl. I don't even blame her. Only myself for my softness. What prevented me from acting as a man? Just break these unnecessary gum-like relationships. Nothing but my conscience. And I was left face to face with a broken heart, a sick girl, and the endless procedures that made Ellie feel better, but not at all. The doctors didn't even make bets, because it was equally probable that she would die in an hour or in 10 years. Positive emotions, they said. Love makes miracles. I probably don't know anything about love, but at 18 I'm sitting at the bedside of a dying friend and thinking about when she's already decided where she should stay in, or heaven or here. It's kinda, you know. If earlier I felt at least pity to her, but now there was nothing left but the desire for everything to be over soon. At some point, I forced myself to come and sit next to her, because every time she reminded me of my promise. If I was a responsible guy, she was just a little sick girl who did not want to let go of her dreams of a happy life. And, you know, I'm not acting selfish here. At some point, I realized that I just couldn't stand it anymore. Either I would go crazy or do something terrible with our relationship. And then I decided to talk to her honestly. Ellie just happened to be on another good short period of time when she could listen, and I decided to talk to her. I sat down and started telling her I couldn't do that anymore, that I wanted to leave her and not come back, that I had my whole life ahead and I did not want to spend it in the hospital room with a girl that I did not like. She was silent, didn't even move. Only tears flowed down her cheeks. I left, and after half an hour, they called me from the hospital and said that Ellie was in a very serious condition in intensive care. She somehow pulled out a catheter dropper from a vein and turned off the apparatus. Suicide attempt. Well, I think you know how it all ended. I returned. I apologized, begged her not to do anything stupid anymore, and again promised that I would be with her until the very end, and she agreed. I am now 20. Ellie is doing fine, and she still makes me come to her. I hate her, myself, and my life. I have a feeling I would die before she lets me go, but I can't say no to the dying one. Maybe it's really fate we met and everything turned out in such a wild, creepy way. Or is this punishment to me for my indecision? I don't know. Only I do not care. I look at my comrades who are doing very well. A couple of them even got kids already, and I fiercely envy them, because all that awaits me is a hospital ward and a person I hate.
Hey guys, I'm Eva, and I'm the most terrible mom in the world. Just because I haven't loved my kid for a long time, and I have a reason for it. You can judge me, or you can support me, I don't care. I just want to tell you my story. When I was 16, I fell in love. You know, as all teens do. Love at first sight and forever. although this wasn't the truth. But it felt like it was a serious love with a punch of drama. My parents were against our relationship because I had to pay attention to my studies and think about my future. But who's going to listen to them at that age? I started to date Nick. He was a nice guy, but a persistent one. And in some short time, our friendship turned into something closer. My parents demanded to break all contact with him. They said I would do silly things that I would just regret later, but I ignored them again. I thought our love was forever. I even planned, after school and college, we would marry and buy a house with a garden and with a pool on the backyard. Nick will find a good job, I will raise our kids, and do some garden stuff, and our garden will be the best in the world. Nick only laughed at me and my dreams, but he did it kindly, and said that he didn't mind if everything turned out that way. We were happy together for a whole year. After I got pregnant, I don't know how come, because Nick assured me everything was under control. But in one moment, my period didn't start and I did a test that showed 2 stripes, which meant that I was pregnant. My mom and I have a really great relationship, so I decided not to hide anything. I went to tell her about the situation. I thought maybe Mom would help me or something, but unexpectedly, they told me that I must give birth and there are no other options. They said, like, if you know how to get pregnant, so you can do everything and we'll help you. And I had a lot more than half a year before my graduation exams, so I had enough problems with my adult problems. But my parents understood that yelling was useless and they should start to persuade me. They also had doctors on their side who examined me. They all repeated that they would help me, and that kids are a joy, and that they should not be abandoned. They did everything for me not to let me do anything stupid. And I don't know why. Maybe to have some diversity, I obeyed them. I told Nick about that, but he wasn't so happy to know that he's gonna be a father. But he didn't break up with me. We continued dating. He even cared about me. He asked that I would come home earlier and watched that I wore warm clothes. Unfortunately, it couldn't last long. After graduation, when I already had quite a big baby bump, he went to college that we planned to enter together. I, of course, didn't enter because I was gonna give birth to my kid in a few months. Mom tried to calm me down, like, give birth, and next year you're gonna continue your education, and they'll be with my baby at that time. Of course, I was ashamed for losing a relationship. I really loved Nick, but you know, when you have a 7-month baby bump, there's no time for romance. All of my pregnancy, my parents didn't leave me at all. They gave me some healthy food, looked after my weight and health. They listened how a baby pushed inside. So they were the best parents. Unlike me, I didn't get the idea. I was unable to sleep. It was hard to breathe. And the closer we got to the birth date, the worse I got. The baby was pushing and moving inside of me. And it seemed that it was not a new little life inside of me. It was an alien, an outsider. Mom told me that a maternal instinct would come later, but it was hard to believe her words. I wasn't ready to become a mother. Not mentally, not physically, you know. It was my parents' idea to save this kid, not mine. And I did this just because they promised me to care about my baby. And I was just scared. I was told some terrifying stories about birthing and that awful pain in the hospital. It happened so that I had to go to the hospital a month early because the doctor said that there was something wrong. And rooms for pregnant women were on the same floor where the delivery room was. I have never heard such an amount of suffering and crying. Bloodied, exhausted, unconscious girls were taken out from there on a gurney and sent further to the floor above, where they came to their senses and received their newborns in their arms. Yes, already rosy and insanely happy mothers were discharged from the hospital, but we saw a horror. It was weird, but my delivery was normal. Maybe it was because of my body complexion, maybe something else. but I didn't feel pain. I don't remember me screaming or anything. A little bit of a scratching feeling in my baby bump, and the doctor put my baby on my chest. A little wrinkled, but a real one. At first, I honestly got scared of what I saw. And where is the plump and sweet creature that they draw in the pictures? The only thing that calmed me down was that all the kids who were in the hospital looked the same as mine, and they screamed, just yelling non-stop. I was afraid to come to my baby, to touch him, and it was not because of my maternal instincts, or as my roommate said, "He is so tiny. How can I touch him?" Honestly, partly it was true. He was tiny enough to lie on my hands, but I felt nothing. And later, Mark and I were taken home. Everything went really well for the first time. The hospital psychologist prescribed me pills, which I took in handfuls. I don't know how it helped with the postpartum depression I was diagnosed with, but they helped me to put up with what was happening, and my mom completely took care of my son. Fortunately for me, Mark totally refused breastfeeding, so they didn't even bring him to be fed. Most days, I spent in my room watching the walls. I was good, and one day, all the pills ran out. Mom had to return to her job. Mark was half a year old, and he looked like other kids in pictures. Such a plump one, with little chunky rolls on his arms and legs, smiling teethless. But it didn't add any love for him. My parents went to work and returned in the evening. I had to live by the timetable of this little human. Rise, eat, burp, change diapers, sleep, eat, burp. And so I was in a circle 24/7, like a squirrel in a wheel. I mean, 24 hours because my mom, of course, tried to help us, but she worked. And at night, she was supposed to sleep to go somewhere in the morning, but Mark didn't sleep. He didn't have to work. I felt nothing, but I decided to do everything for my kid. And I got up, stroked the diapers, sat a baby on the baby toilet, in general, read a lot of forums to become the best mom. And the more I tried, the more happy Mark became, and the more I hated my whole life. Of course, I didn't go to college, because who will take care of the kid? There was no money for a nanny in the family. My parents continued to work, so I had to forget about my higher education. Can I at least go out somewhere? Yes, of course, there's a playground. You don't like it? There's also a hospital, a shop with a farm, organic products, and another playground, a little further from home. Why don't you like that? Friends, going to the movies, relationships, all this remained in the distant past. But in the present, well, you remember, yes, diapers, feeding, sleeping, and educational games which were necessary. I expected a bright turning point to come soon, when I say, yes, this is my son, and I love him more than my life. But that moment did not come. On the contrary, the farther it got, the worse the situation got for me. I really started to be afraid of myself, because I understood that it wasn't okay. Then me and my parents decided I would return to the psychologist. It was the best decision in my life. It turned out that the problem was not in me, and especially not in Mark. It turned out that the worst thing is not in going mad, but in ordinary hormones. And I'm not crazy. I'm just sick. And I really needed to be treated, because it can pass itself. But until that moment, I'll ruin everything that I have. My mom was babysitting with Mark again, and Nick appeared and helped her sometimes. And I took some pills, ate healthy food, and I was undergoing intensive therapy with a psychotherapist. In the end, I felt as I once had a long time ago. Now Mark is 3, and he is the best kid ever. I can't imagine my life without his questions, smiles, and hugs. Write in the comments what you think about such a complicated story. Like this video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See ya!